Welcome to a world of mystery. A world so dark that you can barely see. A world where the macabre becomes a reality, and your reality becomes the strange and unusual. This is an October edition of the Cain Stevens Paranormal Super Show.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the Cain Stevens Paranormal Super Show. I've got a super guest once again in the old cathedral of the nostalgic here in my studio, a beautiful Shoe Line Records. We've got the ocean crashing in the background, outside where we got our bartender cooking up Mai Tais or whatever pretty soon. But I have none other than my super guest, Amanda Perez. We're going to give her a round of applause. Yes, absolutely. Welcome to the show. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. I can't believe you decided to be on my show, to come to my studio.
Finally.
I tell a lot of people this is really the only way for me to lure people into my my evil lair, you know what I mean, and make them hang out with me because I don't have any friends. Like I tell my kids my only two friends are the two skeletons in the room here, and usually they're in the closet, literally. So
those are good friends to have.
They are good friends. I've got Fred the skeleton over here. I've got Fred Weena over here. My uncle, my crazy uncle, he bought into the idea of all the spooky stuff that I do. So he bought me this other skeleton because he thought that Fred was lonely. So
he needed a friend.
He needed a friend. So we gave him a female companion, and they both hang in the corner. So the reason we have you on the show is this is going to be for the Spooktober month. The Cain Stevens Paranormal Super Show will make a brief 1 month return on this show, the Cain Stevens Super Show. If you could say that 3,000 times, I dare you. And it's a lot of supers. And basically, we're going to have spooky content. And the reason you're here is because you contacted me quite a while ago, and I think your mother-in-law contacted me or your stepmom. I'm sorry. Yeah. Stepmom. And basically you got a hold of me because the house that you guys, we're not going to say any address names because we don't want spooky people popping at the door.
Yeah.
But somewhere in the area of Air Park and Arnold Heights, there's a cozy little place. It's really nice. It's a lot like the housing out there. But that's really all the description I'm going to give you. But there is a house out there and many others that are haunted. And so I want you to tell me about your experiences with the haunting out there. Like, have you yourself witnessed the paranormal that's happened in this house?
Yes. Okay. Ever since we moved in when we were kids.
Yeah.
It like progressively got worse over time. But so we lived in 3 houses since I was little, and every house that we lived in, something happened. But with each house, it seemed to just get more and more. And then once we moved into Air Park, that's when it just
that's when it popped off, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of a common theme with a lot of people. It's like, I don't think all of us want the haunting stuff to happen. I mean, even if we're into I'm into the paranormal, but I don't want the haunting things to happen.
Right.
But it seems like throughout my life, even with my family, there's been a lot of hauntings in different places. My grandma in Evansdale, Iowa, they had a ghost in their house that they called Elmer, whatever.
They named him.
Yeah, they named him, of course.
If you name them, they're not going anywhere.
Yeah, they're sticking around. It's like feeding a squirrel, if you name a ghost. But we lived in a house in Utan, Nebraska, where a guy hung himself up in the attic, and a lot of weird stuff happened there. And I had a haunting in Arnold Heights as well with my family, with my wife and my kids. And that's really where I decided I wanted to investigate, because I wanted to know, I got grabbed on the ankle, which I've told that story on the show many times. And ever since then, I've always wondered, like, how is it even possible? Like, okay, I know people talk about ghosts, and I know people talk about seeing an apparition, but not a lot of people talk about getting pushed, pulled, hit, scratched, and all that. And that's when it gets interesting. So have you ever experienced that sort of thing? Have you ever been physically harmed, grabbed, or anything that you can think of?
So I've never been touched by anything.
Yeah.
But something definitely wanted us to know that it was there.
Right.
Just by moving things, throwing things, but none of us were ever actually physically touched. But Candy, when she was there, she was. And
Yeah.
weren't you too?
I was in the garage, and we're definitely going to go over that. So what happened was they decided to be as gracious enough to let us come and investigate the house. So me being green, Bryce and Candace, Bryce's sister-in-law, we went in there armed with a boatload of paranormal equipment that we had gotten from a good friend of ours who's a paranormal investigator. And we went in there, and I'll be darned if a lot of stuff didn't happen. Things especially in the garage seemed like a really weird place. And so if for one who doesn't know what an SLS is, we're using an SLS, and what that is it uses the Connect system for like Xbox 360, and it points like millions of balls of light at something, and if something breaks its plane, say a human being or whatever, it actually shows the jointed figure how it's breaking the plane. Well, we were getting numerous SLS hits in the garage. One particularly up like in the corner of the garage right behind me, and before I even knew anything about it, I was feeling like a charge, like all my hair stood up. I felt like super rushed, like I had to get out of there, but I was there for a reason, so I stuck around in there. And I think even somebody had mentioned something about did someone catch a EVP or something saying hang at one point?
Yes, my stepmom had it was an EVP, and yeah, it said hang. Yeah. And so we have had a lot of experiences in the garage, and we've had that paranormal group Paracon there before, but they never investigated the garage. So you guys were the first ones to do that, and it was crazy to see what you guys caught in there. That whatever, what is that thing called that you said?
SLS.
Yeah, the guy was like showing himself, like hanging from the rafters, and it was really creepy to see, but it validates like how we have felt in the garage,
right? And
things that we've seen in the garage. We've always seen like this black shadow person in that corner where he was showing himself. And so just to see you get that was crazy.
That's kind of validation to you guys, like you said, right? Because I mean, what the thing is we didn't want to go in there and spook you guys more or anything, because that's not our whole thing. Like we're all three pretty calm people, and so we just wanted to make you guys know that you're not crazy, that there can be something there or there's nothing there, but you're not crazy. Like, so let's take all this equipment. I know at one point we were catching it, and I was reaching my hand backwards, and it was actually, you could see the joint of figure grabbing my hand, and I was feeling a charge in my arm, like a cold spot. And to me, I think that's evidence. I think that's pretty substantial. Can I say every SLS hit is a ghost? No. I don't understand the technology enough to say for sure, but I think if it corroborates with what everyone's saying and how you're feeling, I think you can't ignore that. Kirk McManus, who I had on here not too long ago, he puts it so eloquently, he said, really, why wouldn't you give a ghost as much opportunity to talk to you as possible? So like I get a lot of people who like I'm kind of putting together spirit boxes and stuff like that, and they want to. I have my little prototype over here.
I see it.
And basically I get a lot of people in like the Christian community and stuff, and I'm a Christian and I'm okay with it. They think that I'm dancing with the devil. They think that but I think it's how you do it. I'm not doing it in seance style. I'm not putting it in the middle of a pentagram and asking the devil to appear and all this stuff. I'm just simply, if they're going to communicate through something, why not let them communicate through it if we can at least try? So the jury's kind of out on spirit boxes for me, but you do get weird responses. And we used we decided to go with a app that we were testing when we were there. And I know the paranormal community, especially there's a guy from Paracon who thinks that maybe anything that we probably caught there on that is probably a bunch of horse hockey, you know. But I don't think that that's true.
I was gonna say, I don't think so, because a lot of the things that were coming up on there were responses to questions that you were asking. And as far as like the couch, when you caught also the stick person,
there we go,
sitting on the couch in where my mom used to sit, and you asked, did that used to be your seat? And she said many years ago.
Yeah.
You know, that for me, if it was not real, how is it responding?
Well, and there was even
your questions.
There was even a point in the basement where we were asking questions about, are you attached to the family? Do you stay here for the family? And we got a resounding quick yes. I mean, clear as day, yes. And so I wonder to myself, even if it is through a phone app, okay, I mean, what are the odds of it? Because it doesn't answer like that all the time. I guess the only thing I could try to prove it wrong if I were debunking it is maybe they have like a series of database words, and if you say something, it triggers that. But then why wouldn't it answer that way on every question? Right. So that's what you gotta look at, like, mathematics wise, and the odds of this happening are like, what, 1 billion to 1 or something. So, yeah, it just doesn't make any sense. But I mean, what did you think about the investigation? I mean, did you guys, when we left, feel a little bit more validated in how you feel? Did you feel that we did a thorough job? I mean, how'd you feel?
Like, you guys were very respectful, and like my stepmom was, and my dad were both worried, like, we don't want to antagonize them and make things worse, but you guys were super respectful and like thanked them for everything, like every question that they were answering for you.
Right.
And so, yeah, you guys did a great job, and definitely just a lot of validation to things that we had experienced. And you guys were the first ones that my dad actually like got involved with, because he has experienced things himself, but he doesn't like to talk about it, and he'll always try to be the one that debunks it. Well, it could be this, or it could be this, even if there's no explanation.
And what's your dad's name again?
Mike.
It's Mike. Mike's really interesting, you know, because I'll tell you why the name Mike is interesting, because I was combing through some of the evidence last night, and out of our actual spirit box, which is just, you know, sweeping back and forth, I caught, I think, and I'll have to find, I'm pretty sure I caught what I think it says Mike.
No.
And I thought that was pretty interesting. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So I'll have to send that. Yeah. When we're done with this, I'll have to show you, because I marked a bunch of notes, but I'm almost positive. To me, it sounds like Mike, and I wasn't, you like the power of suggestion and all that. So I hate to tell people what, but in this instance, it makes sense. When I was listening last night, just out of the blue, when I go to, I think it was when we started in the basement, right as we kicked on one of the devices, shortly after that, seconds after that, it said Mike.
Wow.
And I thought that, and that was, I have to kind of paint the picture. So that's when we set the REM pod down on the workbench downstairs. And as I walked away from it, it continued to go off as if something was holding it or touching it. Which was crazy. And then we were getting a ton of stuff. Something was saying it wanted to kill. It said kill you.
Yeah, to us. That scared me, and that's when I said, I'm going outside.
But I felt like it was more. We saw 2 figures downstairs on the SOS. They just popped up by that workbench. There was a small one and a big one. And the bigger one, they seemed to like they either were dancing or they were fighting, but it was really strange. Like the big one had a grip on the small one or something. And then we were getting all that stuff. So I didn't look at kill you as they're threatening the family or anything. I looked at it.
To each other.
They could have been talking to each other. They could have been, maybe they were tired of me blabbing all night, because somebody in the group always has to be the blabber. And unfortunately for me, it's I talk too much anyway, so I might as well be the one. So that's why I have a podcast where I generally talk to myself in my basement studio, or my dogs are probably sick and tired of hearing me too, but yeah, it was such an interesting interview with you guys beforehand, and hearing all your stories, and then kind of trying to like corroborate it and show you guys that maybe there is something here.
Yeah.
But what I was frustrated with, one, and this is not me picking apart anybody else. I don't understand why a paranormal group, and I have reached out to them. I don't know why they wouldn't investigate the whole house. Like, why wouldn't you investigate?
I can't even remember why. I don't know if we didn't tell them anything about the garage, but I don't know why we wouldn't, because I mean, we've had a lot of experiences out there, especially my brother and I. But yeah, I don't know why we didn't.
But I mean, a house in general, if you want to look at the paranormal in a certain way, I mean, there's probably no bounds to walls and rooms. You know what I mean? Like, we can't even understand the simple concept of why there are ghosts or what they are. You know, some people believe they're merely angels and demons, and they're doing, and I don't necessarily believe that. I know what the Bible says about it and everything, and I don't kick down what the Bible says. I take it very seriously. But I think that we just, as stupid human meat sacks, you know, we kind of we can't put it all together. We're just not, we're not dumb, but we're just not there mentally. Like, we can't handle something like, and there's some things that we just aren't meant to be handle. And maybe it's the idea of death and what's after. So I don't know. I mean, what do you think ghosts are in general? Like what's your assessment of what you've always thought ghosts were?
So for me, that's also a hard question, because going back to the investigation that night, when you were told there was many spirits there and that they were trapped there.
Yeah.
So why are they trapped there?
Yeah, why would they be trapped?
So are ghosts that linger, they're not able to move on and, you know, go, I guess, to the other side. So that's something that I've always wondered. So are ghosts that are in people's houses ones that just can't move on, or like this spirit told you, trapped in these houses?
What if we don't go to heaven or hell? You know, say if you believe that. I don't mean to throw religion at people, but I'm just saying that the simple, what if they don't go to heaven and hell yet? You know what I mean? What if we're in this waiting before all that happens, and it's not necessarily a purgatory or anything like that? We're just kind of there. Like, what if when we die, time and all of that, past, present, and future, kind of blend together, and it doesn't really, maybe that would make more sense as to why we see ladies in Victorian dresses and Civil War soldiers marching and doing the same things they were. I think it's another one of those big picture things that we're just not going to figure out until we die.
I know, and that it just, the thinking of all of that is just, it's so many questions that, like you said, are never going to be answered until we're there. But that's what I would love to, if we could just sit down and talk to a ghost and ask them
exactly
what has them here.
Yeah, what are you doing here?
Yeah.
in simpler terms.
Yeah.
It's really interesting. I mean, ghosts are people have been talking about ghosts and monsters and all this stuff forever, and maybe it's an act of imagination, maybe it's not. I don't think so. My theory is that if you have, say, 100 people, and 100 people are telling ghost stories, I would say not all 100 people are crazy. I would say there's some pretty reasonable people in there that we can, you know, police officers, you know, people. I'm just saying, like, people who are supposed to be upstanding people, all sorts of, they've seen ghosts too, like everybody. Yeah, well, police officers is a really horrible example right now. They used to be good, I think, or maybe they never were. They are good in simple form, but then, like, you think about, like, all the stuff going on, you know, with race and stuff like that, and then you wonder. But in its purest form, you know, police officers are supposed to be good, priests are supposed to be good, but then there's all those people who ruin everything. Supposed to be, yeah. But you get my point. Upstanding people who the community views as good, logical people, or honest people, I should say. I would tell you that with certainty, 100 people, you're guaranteed to have a pretty high percentage of people telling the truth. Not everybody's a liar. It's kind of a cynical thing that we look at, don't you think? When people want to, because people think that we're nuts. Like me, I talk about ghosts all the time, and I get all the time, even from my own family. My mom said something that was so hilarious to me, but so true. She's like, you're either batshit crazy or you're a genius. you know, and that's like, well, I could be both, you know, but I told her, my response to her was, you know, a lot of the really smart people in the world, I don't view myself as a genius by any means, but a lot of the smart people in the world were considered completely nuts because people don't understand how they think and what they're doing. So yeah, I thought it was a hilarious, you know, thank you, Mom, for thanks for the vote of confidence. But I love my mom's hilarious. You know, her and I have always kind of been kindred spirits together and all that. I always kind of like, I told you about canning not too long ago.
Yes.
Maybe I'll give you a jar of pickles on the way out for you. You won't be able to eat it until like late October, but maybe you can tell me how you feel about it. That should be my new consolation for people who actually come to the studio. You get some pickles. Yeah, here's pickles. Here's a jar of salsa if you're interested in that.
Hey, I'll come back every week.
Right. Well, my garden was thriving. Like I'm seriously like an 80-year-old person most of the time. I love canning. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Super old soul. So old that I'd rather talk to ghosts than regular people on the.
I don't blame you for that.
But I don't sit down here. You know, we, believe it or not, we've had weird stuff happen at this house too.
Really?
And maybe my dogs, you know, I don't want to freak you out. My dogs growl and bark and chase things that aren't there all day long. Before you got here today, for example, I was in the shower. I was cleaning. I heard my dog going nuts. I have Ring cameras. And so I watched my dog. I could hear the progression. My dog takes off. He's growling, he's barking, he bolts up the stairs, and he's faced towards the living room, and he's barking and growling at something. And this is like a daily occurrence. And we've also seen like almost like a low figure that looks like a dog, and we think it's our dog Teddy because he's white. And so we'll look back again and it'll be gone, but we'll feel it like brush against us and different things. It's pretty crazy. We hear a lot of pounding at night. We didn't get that at you guys' house. That I was hoping that there would be a lot of like shuffling and pounding, but yeah, we do get a lot of stuff like that. So I wonder what's going on. You know, it's a lot of looking down the hall and seeing something like quickly go across the hallway or something.
But you've never had anything moved or anything like that?
Well, not really that I can think of. I've never had anything like, but this house is so strange anyway. I mean, it would be like this room, for example. I mean, I could probably tell you if something fell off the shelf or something.
Yeah.
But honestly, I would probably just ignore it. If it's probably just me being so dumb that things happen and I don't even notice it, or I just ignore it completely. Yeah. I'm sure that's what it is. But at you guys' house, you know, you guys are telling me about, there's in the kitchen, you guys have like these old, like, what are they, like graters and all this stuff up there?
Just old like kitchen utensils from probably like the 1900s, my great grandma's stuff. Yeah.
Also, it is your great grandma's stuff.
It is.
That's it. And you said everyone told us when we were doing the pre-interview that at one time the cheese grater just like flew off the wall, right? Like
so my sister was having her first co-ed birthday party at the house, and I think she was turning 16 or something. And she was in the kitchen with the boy. They were talking, and the cheese grater flew off the wall towards the boy, and he had to, you know, duck out of the way. Otherwise, I think it would have hit him. Yeah. And he never forgets that. I used to work with him. This was probably like 20, like maybe 15 so years later. Right. And he comes up to me and says, does your dad still live in that haunted house? Like, yep, he does. Yeah. But he never forgets that story. But yeah, so I told my sister, I said, Grandma didn't like that guy.
That's what it had to be, right? And artifacts like that from family, and you guys have quite a bit of them, don't you? Like different things throughout the house. That can be a sign of if you wanted to get rid of the haunting, I think, and maybe you guys don't. I mean, you would probably have to start doing process of elimination, like moving that stuff from into a storage or something. Yeah. But most people don't want to go that route. I mean, not because they want the haunting, but they don't want to have to get a storage unit or move it to a warehouse or somewhere else just to see if the haunting goes away, because it could take forever to know that.
So we did have this sewing machine that was also my great grandma's, really old. I'd say maybe it was like 30 pounds or so. So I mean, kind of heavy. And we were all sleeping one night and we heard this big bang out in the living room. And so we all go out there, and the sewing machine was completely flipped over on top of the you know, the bottom was up
Yeah.
and the top was on the floor, like it was completely flipped upside down. And like I said, it was like 30 pounds or so.
It's
so
impossible. Yeah.
It's impossible for it to fall over and flip completely upside down.
Yeah. And I know it's impossible because my wife has her grandma's sewing machine in here, and it's the same thing. I mean, there's the top thing where you can like work on top of it, and you always have it flipped down. I mean, it takes some effort to get that thing pulled up and, you know, flip back up. So I mean, that to me is pretty wild. I would probably pee my pants or something.
And it was super loud too. Like it banged on the floor and then flipped itself upside down. And then when Paracon was there, the same thing that makes it a stick person, there was one that was like almost guarding the sewing machine.
Oh,
it
really?
was standing in front of the sewing machine and it would not move. And then once Alan, one of the investigators, once he went into the room, it like grabbed on top of the door. And when he opened the door, it hid behind it. But I would say for a good at least 10-15 minutes, it was just standing right there in front of the sewing machine.
So they did use an SLS camera as well.
Yes.
Awesome. Yeah. See that I mean, there's multiple people with the same device catching the same things in areas where people aren't. That's pretty compelling, right? I would say that would did they catch any EVPs? I think they did, right?
Yeah, there was one that said grandma.
Right.
And then I actually have one on my phone. So the guy is explaining to my mom and I how an EVP session works. And then you hear Alan in the kitchen yell for me.
Yeah.
And then as soon as he yells for me, you hear a
right.
And he sent that to me. I have it on my phone. But yeah, so we got that one. And they caught a few more other EVPs too, but we didn't ever hear them.
Describe the flashlight thing. They did the flashlight test thing up on the cabinet, right?
So they put it in the living room and kind of just went about the rest of their investigation, but it just kept going off in the living room. And so Alan took me in there and we asked for it to turn the light on.
Right.
And probably maybe like 20 seconds later, light turns on.
Oh.
And he asks if they can make it brighter. So it was one of those that you have to twist.
You twist it like really lightly, you know, right? And that's kind of the thing. I don't want to call it a trick because it's not a trick.
Yeah.
But that's kind of the thing that you do. Yeah.
Yeah. So you twist it right to turn off, left to turn on, I believe. Anyways, so the more that you turn it, the brighter the flashlight gets. And then when you turn it the opposite way, the dimmer it gets. And so he asked if they would make it brighter. And then you kind of see it like getting fiddled with, and then it gets brighter. And then he asks for them to turn it off. And then they started turning it the opposite way. And so it got brighter again. And he said the other way. And then it slowly dimmed and then shut all the way off.
That's so crazy. Like, I just don't get how, I mean, you'd have to have a pretty strong ghost. You know, I don't want to say poltergeist. However, poltergeist is, the term itself is just loud ghost. But it's like, how can they even do that? How can they manipulate something of that nature? Like, because you have to physically move it.
Yes.
Yeah, there's obviously something going on in there. I mean, if I had to deem a house haunted, I would say I think it's haunted.
Definitely.
I think it's with everything that's happened, other paranormal groups, all this stuff, all these captures. I think that we can safely say that it's haunted
for sure.
So why do you think, in your estimation, why do you think it's haunted there?
Well, it's a combination of, you know, those houses are older houses. And I do believe that they were made for, was it the Army when they came home?
Air Force,
when they came home from war,
right?
And so all these soldiers were fresh out of war, and you know that I'm sure that a lot of them had maybe some PTSD issues, and that's why I do believe a lot of the houses out there are haunted, because I'm sure that these people had a lot of mental things they had to deal with just coming back from war, and I'm sure a lot of them, not a lot of them, but some of them probably committed suicide,
right?
And I do believe that's what happened in the garage. I think that, I don't know if it was a soldier, but maybe a previous tenant hung themselves in the garage.
Well, I know that people have told me that they've read that the single units, not the ones connected, were like reserved for the higher ups. You have the colonels, the officers, all that. So that is interesting. And they would be the ones bearing the most burden. I mean, I know people don't believe that, but the leadership has to make some serious decisions when it comes to life and death.
Yeah.
That'd be really hard. So I know that there were some accidents that took place, even some like some of the people in the different flight companies or whatever in like testing crashed and different things. I know there were some crashes over in Europe. So it's hard to say. Maybe they lived there, maybe they died, maybe they made a rough decision, came back, they couldn't take it anymore. It's hard to say. I mean, there's been so many people in and out of those units. I mean, hey there, fellow follicle enthusiasts. We have a sponsor that's about to make your beards go wild with delight. Brace yourselves for the one and only, the elegant Sasquatch. Are you ready to unleash your outer beast?
Cain, I've been waiting for this moment my entire bearded life. But tell me, how can the elegant Sasquatch help us awaken our inner beasts?
Oh, my hairy companion, the elegant Sasquatch has a treasure trove of beard products that will have your whiskers partying like it's the wildest night in the forest. From their aromatic beard oils to their beastly balms and buttery concoctions, they've got everything you need to make your beard sing with joy.
I can almost hear my beard belting out its own rendition of I Will Survive.
Your beard is in for a treat, my friend, and here's the best part. Every single product is handmade with love. Picture this, a team of Sasquatch artisans rocking their aprons and wielding their grooming tools, crafting beard goodies that will blow your mind. It's like a hairy fiesta of craftsmanship.
I can see those Sasquatch artists dancing with their combs and trimmers like they're on a hairy stage.
Absolutely. These bearded maestros pour their heart and soul into every bottle of beard oil, every tin of balm, and every tub of butter. They're like the Michelin-starred chefs of the beard world, creating culinary delights for your facial hair.
My beard is salivating in anticipation.
Well, get ready for your beard to do a happy dance because the elegant Sasquatch has you covered from all angles. Their beard oils will make your whiskers as smooth as a buttery glide. Their balms will sculpt your beard into a masterpiece that would make Da Vinci jealous. Their butters will leave your beard softer than a cloud made of marshmallows, and their washes will cleanse your beard with a scent that's fresher than the waterfalls in the Rockies.
My beard is ready for the bearded revolution.
You can find the Elegant Sasquatch on Instagram and Facebook. They're ready to share their hairy wisdom, showcase their bearded customers, and entertain you with memes that will make your mustache curl with laughter.
I can't wait to join the hairy community and bask in the glory of their bearded memes.
So, folks, get ready to let your beards run wild. Unleash your outer beast and head over to Facebook and Instagram to find the Elegant Sasquatch. Trust me, your beard will thank you, and you'll be the envy of every bearded creature in the virtual forest.
Here's to smelling like a wild creature and embracing your inner Sasquatch.
Cheers to that, my fellow bearded brethren, and stay elegant with the Elegant Sasquatch. Those units. I mean, you guys own that one, right? Your dad?
No.
Okay.
He's just lived there for we moved in there when I was, I think, 8 or 9. So, I mean, I'm 35. So.
But he's been there long enough where they might as well just graduate him to having it, at this point.
Yeah.
But
over 20 years.
I can't tell you how many people, I can't even count. I'd have to go back of all of the hauntings from one side of Arnold Heights to the other. And I truly think it is one of the most haunted neighborhoods in the country.
I do believe that also. There was a sickness outbreak out there.
There was a polio outbreak on one part of it. Yeah. And what happened was they found out that it was being transferred to this one area through the plumbing. And that's how they figured it out. The plumbing was all kind of weaved together in some weird way. And so there was a polio outbreak out there. I mean, they had a hospital out there. I think there might have been I could be talking out of turn on this, but I think there was a fire of some sort at that. Also, I mean, right where the new school is now, that's where like the Huskerville, like the barracks and all that stuff were too. So I mean, there's a lot of history. And before that, you can only imagine, I'm sure, since 9 Mile Prairie is right there, it was all prairie land at one point. So we got
Native American burial ground.
You got lakes, you got creeks, you got all this stuff. I'm positive the Indian population in there was in and out of that. Yeah, it could be. Sure. I don't know. Yeah, the burial grounds. I mean, I don't know how did they always have sacred burial areas, or did they bury people in specific spots? There could be people buried all over. There could be settlers buried. There could be all of that. So I think that the history out there speaks for itself.
So much history.
Yeah.
And that's has to be why. I mean, there's so much going on out there.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever heard of someone in any of those houses that I've known that hasn't had some sort of experience where they've lived.
Right. That's crazy. I mean, yeah. Can you think of any other houses of friends where you went and there was also stuff going on growing up?
Friends' houses? No, really just family.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is with our family, but yeah, a lot of family houses, they've had things go on.
Maybe you guys have like a generation, like a family curse, you know, like that's something that I've kind of been researching. And I know that sounds crazy, but like who knows what our family members did like far in the past, or you know, maybe they got into a business dispute or something and the guy knew voodoo or something.
Oh my
did like a
gosh.
curse.
How do we get rid of this?
Yeah, family hexes and curses is that's a deep dive for you guys out there. If you want to really get into the weirdest of the weird, start reading into like curses and all that. But they also talk about cryptids out there. Do you know what cryptids are?
No.
Cryptids are like the creatures and goblins people see, like a Bigfoot.
Okay.
And all of that. So there's actually reports of a cryptid out in Arnold Heights, and I don't think people realize that. Multiple people have reported to me a large shadow figure that kind of looks like a cat of some sort. I mean, like massive, and it has red eyes, and it screeches like a loud, like devilish screech.
Oh no!
And I remember
I've never heard this story.
Yeah, though Arnold, you know, the Arnold Heights woods is what we call them. Over there in the middle, where you can go through that bike path, you know, to get from one side. Everybody used to kind of cross that in one way or another. They report a lot of stuff in there, and so we went and investigated that also around the same time. And we caught all sorts of weird stuff. I mean, we had cat ball sensors laying out in different areas. They would go off on their own. And the only way they can go off is if someone pushes them and rolls them and moves them. They were going off on their own. We were getting, obviously there's a bunch of animals, but the worst part of it, the worst thing we caught out there was, I think Bryce caught 3 ticks on him.
Ooh.
And I had 2 embedded in me. So I'm pretty sure we both have Lyme's disease now. And, it's over for us. Yeah. According to my mom, it's over for me. Like she always has the most, you know, comforting things to say to me. So I tell her about it and she goes, "Oh no, that's what this person had. And they've been miserable the rest of their life."
Oh,
I'm like,
gosh.
"Oh, thank God,
Thanks,
Mom. Yeah, thanks a lot for this." As if I don't have enough problems. I need Lyme's disease now.
Why not?
So what have they had happen? Have you guys had anything else happen since we were there?
Not that I know of. I know my stepmom says that she always feels it like just kind of watching her.
Right.
It's never bothered her. Grizzy, their dog, actually, he's the only one that kind of gets messed with a little bit. Mm-hmm. She was getting ready for work and Grizzy was standing right outside the bathroom door and he started growling at something and then yelped like he got like a smack or something. And then he ran and hid in his little bed that they have in the kitchen. But so they have like you see that whole workout area they have down there. When she's on the treadmill or working out, she said she always feels it like right behind her, just watching what she's doing. So other than that, I don't think that anything else has happened because I'm sure she would have told me. Because
your brother used to sleep down there, right? And he told us some pretty crazy. So there's basically a big hole down there. Well, it's not big, but big enough.
You could crawl
a crawl space area with dirt. And he was telling us when we were doing the pre-investigation that he used to hear like talking and all this. He said that one time he had a dream that he needed to dig, and and he said after he did that, he began digging and digging and digging in this area, but I don't think he found anything.
I don't think he found anything, but just like weird bones.
Yeah.
And I don't think they were human bones, maybe animals that like, I don't know.
Animal sacrifice?
He did find bones in there.
Or maybe somebody buried their, pet in there. I don't know. But still, I just can't imagine, like, those are the weirdest things in general. Like,
we've never liked that crawl space.
Yeah.
We've never liked it.
well, one weird thing I had happen there was I put my phone on a tripod and I was using it as a camera
In
in-
that space.
in that space, and I ran it I thought I ran it the whole time, but so I went over there, I did a check, I waved it at myself, I looked at it, I hit record, made sure it was recording, threw some cat balls in there and a laser grid and walked away. When I came back after we were recording, it was as if nothing had ever taken place whatsoever. The phone was completely off, which I mean, and I use it all the time. Yes, this is just a personal story. I can't say for sure because I don't have evidence of it, but I do know for a fact that I turned it on. I know that the red light was blinking, I know that it was all doing its thing. And I can't explain why it shut it off because I wanted to catch something in there.
Yeah.
Like, what if I could have caught the cat balls moving?
I was gonna say whatever it was didn't want you to see it.
It didn't want, and that's not too out of the ordinary. Plus, the house is a battery drainer. That's another thing with hauntings.
Your
However, they take
batteries
their
were just draining like crazy.
they were
that
they were
night.
all charged to the max, everything, and all batteries were really low, if not completely depleted.
I remember on something you had to change your battery like 3 times because it just
Yeah.
kept dying.
Did you guys ever have that happen there, like that you can remember with electronics or?
Not that I can remember. I know that my dad's he started setting up cameras
Mhm.
and he caught a lot of weird things.
Oh, he did set up cameras? Wow.
Yeah. This was a couple years ago. He was at work and the kitchen light went off 14 times, on, off, on, off, on, off.
Whoa.
And so I sent it to Alan, the one that you talked to,
Yep.
and I said, look at this. This is crazy. And he asked if we heard the EVP, and I said, what are you talking about? And he's like, I thought that's why you sent it to me, was for the voice, not for the lights.
Oh,
and
I heard something on it too.
yeah, so
Wow.
he turned the sound all the way up, and as it was turning the light on and off, it said, I can't see.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, into the camera.
Yeah. Well, Alan, if you're out there, I would love to talk to you about what you guys have and what we have, and just kind of come to an understanding. Because I think that we all, I've had a conversation with Alan. Alan seems like a really nice guy. Alan just seems a little bit skeptical of other paranormal, especially people who aren't established like us. They don't want us going storming in there and saying, oh yeah, this place is filled with demonic presences and all that. But luckily for you guys, I'm not that way. I think that people dramatize the demonic thing and everything.
Do too.
I would say there is I think if there's good, I think there's a lot of evil, and I would say with 100% certainty that it's out there if you're looking for it. But
I also believe that.
Yeah, but the only thing is that it's not in every haunting. It's not like TV. We all make fun of Zach Bagans from Ghost Adventures, but we continue to watch it. It's my guilty pleasure. I'll never stop.
It's one of mine too.
Yeah,
I make fun of him, but I can't stop watching the show.
If I met him, I would still fanboy out and be a little girly about it. Like I would probably. It's like it's not just the stat. They've been on for a long time, so I know people don't respect Zach. And they don't respect, but they are
He's
doing
just very dramatic and over the top, but yeah, they catch some good stuff. They're legit in what they do.
They do, and at the very least, you can watch it and you get to see the history of the hauntings. That to me is my favorite part. And then of course all they're really good at like all the creepy stuff that they add into it, like all the camera work and all that. So I don't know. It's a guilty pleasure that I'm not going to give up, but. What I do want to say to Paracon and Alan is I welcome all research and all help, and I want to help you guys with whatever we can do. I know Alan had mentioned possibly, me helping do an investigation with them, and I was kind of weary about it because I feel like the paranormal field is very cliquey and they're very kind of like skeptical of everybody else.
Like you're not doing something.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm just trying to do what I'm just trying to mimic what I see and what I've been taught to do. And I think that's all they're doing too. I mean, none of us really know. I mean, honestly, until we all die, that's when we're truly going to know.
Nobody knows.
Unless a ghost is going to physically give us a manual like on Beetlejuice or something. what the manual for the recently deceased or whatever it was, then we probably aren't going to have the answers. So we're all kind of fumbling in the dark, so literally at times.
Yes.
Well, I really do hope that eventually you guys will would consider having another investigation. I know that they probably want to put this thing to rest, but I would love to get in one more time with more equipment and better now that we've got a bunch of investigations under our belt, really hit it hard quickly. And I'd also like to investigate outside.
I do think they would let you guys do that.
Yeah,
for sure.
Well, that'd be cool. And if they don't, at least we got to go in once, and I can say, not with 100% certainty, because I don't think that exists in the paranormal world, but I could say with most certainty, I think it's haunted.
For sure.
And you guys aren't, you're not crazy, so you can pat yourselves on the back and go, "Thank God!" Or give yourself a give yourself a hug. Topic. Yeah, not on that. Yeah, what happens to the rest of you guys' life, that's a different story. Yeah. I'm completely nuts, obviously, in my regular life, which is why we're sitting in my basement studio once again doing a podcast to hopefully millions someday, right? Sometimes I wonder why I do it. Like it is discouraging. Music, being a musician, being a podcaster can be discouraging because there's so many other people doing it. You got to try to set yourself apart, but you can't do anything if you don't try. Right. So I do it as an outlet. I almost died 3 years ago due to my heart complications that I was having at the time. And ever since then, I do it as a nice mind escape. Personally, I have a pacemaker. I'm okay with telling people. I have a pacemaker and ICD, and I think about it constantly. And a person starts to think about their demise and their death. But I'm starting to become more. It's not like I want it to, but I will at least be able to come to grips with the fact that when the time comes, it is what it is. There's no getting out of it. Not to be so grim or anything, but that's another reason why I do it too. I do it because I'm just searching for answers, not to what's going to happen to me, but I just want to leave somewhat of a legacy for my kids, and they can see that, their dad did something.
Yeah.
Their dad wasn't just into things. Their dad put it to action. A lot of people are into a lot of things. I mean, people are into, amateur woodworking, all this other stuff, but you have to actually put it into motion to actually make something. So really, you're taking part in my video diary of this. Some my kids and people who knew me can go back and they can remember that I wasn't, I was full of crap, but maybe some of the stuff that I had to say mattered. Because could you imagine our grandparents and all the people that we respect, if they had this platform and you could go back and you could watch what they had to say and really get to know them? I think that a person could get to know me pretty quickly if you listen to all of my podcasts, because I just puke out all of my all of my emotions, all my thoughts, all my feelings. So it's a wonderful thing for me to have a person like you come to my house, do this, and I just really appreciate you being here.
No problem. I'm glad we finally got to do it.
Absolutely. We scheduled it once and it didn't work out. I think we got COVID or something at that time.
Yeah.
But it was around, it was not like a year ago, right?
Something like that.
Something like that. Yeah.
So long
time
in the making.
And since then we got to investigate. We've talked, you've had some other paranormal things happening too, right? Not just have you had some stuff happen in your house that you're living in now?
No. So this was at our old place. So we just moved last week, thankfully, and the house feels we don't feel anything there.
Yeah.
But my puppy, she has to sleep in the kennel at night because she's naughty.
Right.
But we decided to keep her out one night. She was already asleep with us in bed. So we just left her with us. And when we woke up in the morning, she was in her kennel, both locks locked. Neither one of us did it.
Yeah.
We're the only ones there.
How's that even possible?
And she was completely locked in her kennel, both locks all the way to the right. And she was in there. And we had no idea. How did that happen?
Or it's the first case of a dog breaking in to their kennel, right?
But that's what Adrian said. He's like, she put herself in there.
Yeah.
He locked it too.
Yeah. You closed the door behind them, latched it. They didn't want to go.
Yeah.
That's so wild.
Yeah. But that was really the only thing that we experienced there. We kind of like had bad vibes from that place, but we didn't experience anything until right before we were getting ready to move.
Yeah.
Rhea was locked in her kennel. Oh yeah, and the door. I forgot about
That's
that.
right. Yeah, I remember something about a door.
About that. So before she got locked in her kennel, I'd say maybe a few weeks before that, after we went to the cemetery that night that we called you.
Yeah.
Adrian was in the bedroom and he was doing a Zoom call, and both dogs are with him, and the bedroom doorknob opens, and the door just goes and opens all the way. And he said that both dogs just sat there and looked at the door, but they didn't growl or bark or anything, but they both just stared at the door. He said for like a good, probably 2-3 minutes, they both just stared at the door. And then they just went back to what they were doing.
And they didn't freak out. It's almost like they were used to whatever was there.
Yeah.
If there was something there, like they just kind of glanced over. Oh, it's whatever that is. Mm-hmm. That's so crazy.
And then like a week later or so, then Rhea was locked in her kennel. And yeah, so we were happy to move out of there because we had lived there for some time. So we're like, maybe they're just happy that we're packing up and leaving.
Yeah. Well, it is exciting for me to that you are with the person you're with, because I know him and old work, but he's special to me because we used to work hard together, and he's a good guy. Stories. Oh yeah. We used to be pretty wild. And his brother too, his brother, him and I, we were always together too. So it was like, those are some pretty good times. When I dream, for whatever reason, I dream about my grandma a lot, like probably twice her, who's no longer with us. And I dream about working at that place for whatever reason. Like I'm always doing some mundane, stupid task. Like, do you ever dream in that job? Like, oh yeah, go over there and knock this wall down and clean up the drywall. And like the whole dream, it feels like, hours and hours. I'm sure it's like 20 minutes or whatever of actual dreaming, but it feels like all night I'm just dreaming about doing one stupid mundane task. Isn't that crazy?
That is crazy.
Well, I'm gonna get a dream expert on, because I want to know, what is it? Horse hockey for sure, and that's one of my favorite terms, because it's so ridiculous. It's like an old guy term.
Again, old soul.
Yeah, for sure. But I used to have this book on the paranormal show, and I would flip through it and I would randomly select like this word says if you dreamt this, like if you ate a salad in your dream, really your heart was yearning for someone else or something. Like it was so the things in it were so dumb. It was like they put it in a hat
and just drew.
And yep, this sounds pretty good. Like what is the science behind it? So I'm gonna get an expert on it. I'm not gonna shred them because that's not my way of going about it. But I really want to know, like, what is it? Like, how could you possibly know when the science is so low on dreams?
Yeah.
Like I think what they have figured out is dreams are a mind dump, right? So your mind is so active, it needs like a break. So we have to sleep, and we get into REM sleep, and it's almost like a data dump, like a matrix data dump, where our brains just kind of like boop, boop, boop. Let's get rid of all this. We'll save this. And then, but I mean, what is it? Like when we die, you kind of have the same thing. They think you have like a life review where you go through.
Yeah. Your life flashes before your eyes.
Right. And then the skeptics will say, well, it's merely your brain just emitting a bunch of chemicals and all of that. But why would so many people go through the same thing? You get what I mean? Like, why would that? I don't think so. I think it's part of it. I think it's kind of like a weird life review, like the near-death experiences and all that. A lot of people experience that type of stuff.
Yeah, they see their life.
Except
your brain, after you die, your brain is still active for, isn't it 5 to 7 minutes?
Right.
So, I mean, they say that when you pass away, your brain is active enough for you to know that you're dead.
I watched a near-death experience on YouTube not too long ago. And it was a lady talking about, it was either a lady or I can't remember. But anyways, the person had died, and they were waiting for their family members to say goodbye to them. So they were bringing people in. She was like seeing people come and all that, but she was dead for like 20 some minutes.
And she remembers all.
And then she came back and she's alive now.
What?
Yeah, like, and so they don't understand like how that's even but like there's so many weird things like that. It's just so hard to, they would say that after so many minutes you would be brain dead because of all of that. But I mean, she's alive, she's functioning, she has the story. It's just really interesting. Or is she nuts? Like that's the thing everyone wants to go to, right? And even I do, not judging people. My instant thought is, oh, that sounds ridiculous because that's not what they tell us. But how the hell do I know, right?
Right.
So
None of us know.
none of us know. So tell me one of your that could be an interesting question. Tell me one of your craziest dreams that you feel comfortable talking about lately.
So lately, I can't think of a crazy one lately, but I'll ask you a question first. Do you believe that people, family or friends that have passed over, do you believe that when they show up in your dreams it's a visitation?
I the jury's out with me. I have family members come to me all the time, but I don't know if it's on purpose or not. I'm just not sure yet. But I think it's possible, yeah.
So, I'll tell you one of my craziest dreams. So, it was the night after my mom passed away.
Mm-hmm.
I had a dream, and it was probably the most vivid, memorable dream I've ever had in my life. And that's why I do believe that, she came to me to tell me this. I was walking to her house because we lived about 4 houses away from each other.
Mm-hmm.
And I was walking up to her house and I knocked on the door and she answers.
Right.
And in my dream, I start crying and I say, "How are you answering the door? You died." And she was like, "What? I died?" And then she starts crying and she didn't know that she had passed away.
Oh.
And she asks me, "How did I die?" And then when I told her how she died, she just kept apologizing and apologizing. And she's like, "I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry I did this to you." And that was something that I needed to hear that I never heard from her. And so I do believe that that was her coming to me and apologizing for, kind of how things happened. Okay. And yeah, I thought about that dream for so long after that. It kind of messed me up, but right. Yeah, very crazy dream.
I would like to think that they do come to our dreams. And I think that I mean, even if you look at it from like religions throughout history, they talk about dreams and how important they were. I think that like in biblical times and all of that, when they're talking about things happening, people appearing to them and all that, I think they're appearing to them in dreams. Mm-hmm. Some were just physically appearing to them, manifesting as clear as day, as for the skeleton over here and all that. So I think that yes, the answer to your question in a long-winded way is yes, I do believe it. I've had my best friend of 30 some years, Andy Harvey, who I grew up with out there. He died of seizures and he used to come to me a lot in dreams, and I've always been affected by his death and always kind of longed, have even prayed out like, I wished it was me because I felt like he was a better person than I was. I was I was a really rough kid. I fought a lot. I hurt a lot of people. I did violent stuff because I don't know, man. I was just a kind of a bully. I wasn't like bullying people, but like bullying back, I should say. I was like a chubby kid who got picked on a lot. And so my only outlet to people when they would like do things to me was that I could think of was to fight back.
Yeah.
And so when I think about like how terrible I was, and then there was this kid, who I just adored my whole life. And then he died. So he died due to grand mal seizures, and they found him, alone. His dad had died. He tried to revive him. Ever since then, he was having like seizures after that. And he was never the same. And I think that he was kind of comforting me and coming back not long after that and telling me, I know there was one time where after he had died, when we were being haunted at the house in Air Park that we lived in, immediately after the night of, actually, we were getting a bunch of activity. And I remember my wife and I asking if it was him. And we heard knocking as answers. Now, I don't know if it was something imitating that because it knew that I was in pain, or I don't know if it was him visiting. But I know that like one story, my mom and my aunt at my grandma's house in Evansdale, Iowa, that was haunted by Elmer. Well, it wasn't just Elmer, but they were sleeping in the living room one night, and apparently my aunt had gotten up, and there was a woman sitting in their chair. And my aunt says to this day that she didn't feel afraid of it, but it felt kind of like comforting to her. But when she described the person to my grandma, she had described their like a grandma of theirs, you know what I mean, who had passed, a long time ago before them, and it described exactly what she was wearing.
Wow.
Yeah, and so it's stuff like this I just can't ignore. But dreams, circling back to that, dreams are such an interesting thing. Like your mom, I truly think by you telling me that story, it has to be your mom comforting you and telling you that they're sorry and that it's going to be okay. Yeah.
But then it also, with her not knowing that she was passed away, that also gave me so many questions. Like, does she not know that she passed away? Like, can she not cross over? Is she stuck here? So then it gave me all of those questions too. And then that it brought it back up the night that you guys came over, because you were told that there were many spirits there and then they were trapped. And that's the first thing that came to my mind, was that dream.
Right.
Of me thinking that maybe she was trapped because she didn't know how to move on, because she didn't know that she was dead.
Yeah.
So then I thought, is she still stuck there?
Well, let me pull up I listed a few names that I remember they're being mentioned on the investigation there. I apologize for using my phone, but where else am I going to dig it out? There were some names that came up, and I want to ask you if there's anything that rings a bell. So at about an hour and 19 minutes and 20 seconds, okay, obviously Mike came through on the Necrometer, which was the app that I was using. Then not long after that, the name Lori came up. Was there a Lori that rings a bell?
That's my dad's sister.
And she's passed away also?
No, she's alive.
Okay. Then there was a Jonathan, I think, that came through a couple times.
I don't know. I'd have to ask my dad, but I can't think
that
of
you can
Jonathan.
recall. Well, be sure. Well, hopefully they watch this, but be sure to ask them also. Another name that came up was Joshua a couple times, which I thought was weird on an app. Why the name Joshua would come up multiple times. Anybody named Josh or Joshua?
Not that I can think of right now.
Well, maybe if I contact like the county clerk or something, and I know you said that it's impossible to get history out there, right?
So we did ask Randy, who's the property manager out there, and she did say that since it was military housing, anything in those records from before it became housing, those are all sealed. She said that you can't get any information on those houses from when it was.
Do you think Randy would talk to me about the hauntings, or probably not, because they don't want to scare people away? I'll bet she gets complaints, right?
I'm sure she probably does.
Yeah, like, I've had it with this place. I'm not keeping my lease. It's haunted. Screw this place, right?
Oh, I'm sure she's got that many times. That's interesting. You should reach out to her and see if she would be.
I'll certainly try. I'm an idiot when it comes to it. It was what drove me as a musician, like to be a promoter and to like get booked all the time. I was always relentless about cold calling people. It's like sometimes all it takes is just the gumption to get over yourself and just call somebody. And
I can call her.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Yeah, I think we should, man. Let's ask her. Okay, there was another one. So here's some other words that came through. The words "we won't go" came out. Sky and Patricia. The name Patricia. Is there a Patricia?
So I don't know. I know my dad just found out a couple years ago that there were two older ladies that lived in that house before they did.
Yeah.
And one of them passed away in that house.
Man, I wonder if one of them's name.
But I don't know. They didn't tell him what their names were.
So then another thing that I marked was when the two SLS figures were fighting or dancing. Or maybe they were dance fighting. I don't know. That's always a thing.
Dance battle?
Yeah, dance battle. The Necrometer response said haunt, and then it said Chris,
My stepmom.
your stepmom.
That's her name.
Oh, really? That's what it said, clear as day. There was then there was a small and big figure. At some point it said, "I'm beside you."
Oh my goodness.
Talking to us. And then they continued fighting, and then not long after that, I think they just had it either with each other or me. It said, "Kill you." And so everybody else was like, and I was freaked out, but I was trying to be like calm about it. But I was like, in my head, I was like, oh my God, like maybe what am I really doing this? Like, should I even continue doing this stuff with things like that?
Yeah.
Because Candace, who was with us, said that according to her husband, said that I seemed fearless, or like I wasn't afraid, but I'm like scared shitless the whole time, like like anybody, but I just channel it in a different way. I'm there for a reason. I'm not going to freak out. Like when I had to go to the basement by myself because I had left equipment down there, I was like, to be honest with you, I was horrified, because when I went down there, it wasn't just the haunted house effect. It was just, it felt off, man. It felt super weird by myself, like something was following me. So I couldn't get out. I think I even pulled the knob by accident, and I told your dad, "I'm so sorry. I'm fumbling with this thing. I can't get it. I know they're easy to put back on. I'm just going to lay it here." And he was like, "It's cool." And so I just bolted up this.
Yeah, that's when we have to go. He has a mini fridge down there, and whenever we're over there and we have to go downstairs to get something to drink, it's always the buddy system.
Yeah,
we will never go down there by ourselves.
And
we always grab someone. Okay, come with, and then it's who's going to be the last one up the stairs, because it's not going to be me.
Right.
I hate that basement. I've always hated that basement.
It's so strange. There's a picture of like Jesus Christ hanging in the one in the like the back by where the panel is, or whatever, the electrical panel. And I forget what your dad said of the story was, but I don't know. To me, it kind of comforted me, like, hey, JC's got our back up in here.
He's down.
Yeah, he's down there. I didn't feel the evil. I know it said kill you or whatever, but I don't know the validity of these apps. So I do want to say, from a paranormal investigator standpoint, I want to assure you guys that I have absolutely I can't lend credibility to it, other than we're just testing out. Why not, right?
Mm-hmm.
They say it could work. Yes, it could just be a bunch of snake oil. I mean, I did pay $10 for the app, which to me is ridiculous.
That is ridiculous.
It was. I was, but my old lady, I had to clear it with her, because usually like a $3 app, it's like, who cares? Right. But $10, she's like, why are we paying Google Play $10 for a stupid app? But then I showed her how cool it was, and she understood. So here's a story about that app that lends validity to it. So we went to the Villisca Axe Murder House.
I saw that. I was super jealous.
With my kids. Well, you can go with us sometime. Well, we should plan an investigation of some sort.
Yes.
So we were, my wife has a tie to it. My wife, her family is related to the lady, Donna, who was cheating with the dad of the Villisca Axe, the dad that got killed. And they know that because this, and this is all, I should say allegedly, but the switchboard ladies back then, you had to go through the switchboard. They're listening to conversations. Well, they heard some things, and pretty soon Donna was known as a town harlot. All of a sudden, sorry, Donna, no respect to you, you're dead. But that's just what they call her. Well, anyways, they suspected her as being part of the reason why the family might have gotten killed, because she was married to a prominent person and a business rival in town and everything else. So she was at least a suspect, and so was her family. So the Jones family is what we were looking for. So we went to the cemetery. We didn't find, we found the family. We paid our respects. We went to Clarinda, Iowa, where more Joneses are buried, where like the other Joneses, and we couldn't find it. We're driving around for an hour and a half trying to look for these graves. It's a big cemetery. We have the app on, and on the text to speech part, it says switch to speech. That's what the words came out. And we're like, well, that's weird. So we go on there, and we're like, so we start asking questions. Can you show us where the Jones family is? We were looking for her, but she wasn't actually buried there, to pay our respects. And it said 100, I believe it said like 120 feet is what came out, like clear as day through the speech part. So I got out, we stopped right there. I got out, and within the circle I walked about what I assumed was about 120 feet in a circle, and I found some of the Jones family.
Wow.
So to me, you can say that it doesn't work. Maybe it's a huge coincidence, one in a zillion, right? But
I don't think so.
I don't think so. Why would it tell us to switch to the speech part? Then the speech part comes out
and tells you exactly where it is.
It tells us exactly where it is.
Wow.
I mean, we could. That's the thing. Now we could end this show on a really strange note if you weren't afraid to do so. We could try to turn on this app just for a second and just see if something. Are you game for it?
I'm game.
Now, for the listeners out there, I don't know what's going to come through. I don't know. I don't even know the validity of this app. But it's at least interesting. It's called
the adrenaline of it.
Yeah, it's called the Necro.
Like, what's it gonna
It's
say?
called the Necrometer. It's done by I think the guy behind Puff, excuse me, not Puff, Puff Daddy, of course. Huff Paranormal. If you he's like a famous spirit box guy on YouTube. Check him out. So here's the Necrometer. We're just gonna get it fired up. I want to show everybody that we're not doing a seance. We're not doing anything in those respects. We mean the nicest things, but we're going to try this out and see if anything comes up, and you guys can judge. So I'm going to just kick this on high and let's see if something comes through. And you guys can be the judge. So we're going to do this in real time. You guys tell me what you hear. Is there anybody here who would like to talk to us? We don't mean any harm to you. Amanda and I are just friends talking about ghosts. That sounded like you something.
Almost sounded like you're a liar.
Yeah. I'm not a liar. Yeah, you're probably right.
Heard.
Well, you're a liar. No, I swear we are talking about ghosts.
Sitting level call.
Sitting something.
We'll
try both of it. We'll try the speech part, and then we'll try the text part. The text part's really scary too because like words come out like in a robotic way.
Oh, I don't read. What?
I hope this is picking up well on this. I'm going to try to get as close to the mic as I can. I don't want it to pop too much.
It's hard.
If I change the sweep rate.
Huh? Can you make it not echo?
So echoey? Let's see. So we're trying for the listener out there, we're trying to get it to not be so so this is what it would be like.
Oh, because it's sweeping.
It's sweeping. So the echo is supposed to clear it up, but unfortunately it doesn't always clear it up. So I'm just letting everybody know. So it basically does what the spirit box does.
What?
So all it's doing is putting a noise gate to it. And so now it's quieting all that. Yeah, it's really hard to tell what they're trying to say though. Can you be clearer to us? We're trying to prove that you can talk to us, that this isn't just a bunch of malarkey. They probably hate my vocabulary. My vocabulary is
I love the word malarkey.
Malarkey.
It's great.
I like that.
Only you.
I heard you.
I heard that too.
My favorite word is cattywampus. If you like the word cattywampus, I would suggest that you say it back to me, please. Now it's getting oddly silent.
I don't think it likes that word.
It didn't like cattywampus. Let's switch over to the text. So once again, if you're not into this as a listener, I'm sorry. You can fast forward and tune out. Samuel. So here's some of the names. Now this is just the text part coming out. Okay. So this is supposedly like a word database. And this is what we used in the house. So let's see if we can get a response from this. If someone's.
This is what you used in my dad's house?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
This and the spirit box.
Okay.
Yeah. Is there anybody here who'd like to communicate with us? Would like to give us a message before we have to go? We're not going to be doing this for very long. A lot of times you can just sit and nothing happens. You can give a yes or no answer. You can give us a name, anything. If your name is Samuel, welcome to the room, I guess. Once again, I'm Cain, which you probably know because I'm in here a lot, and this is Amanda, and we're just here trying to talk to you nicely. We're not here trying to summon anything evil. We're protected by the blood of Christ. Interference. That's interesting. We are protected by the blood of Christ. So please do not try to attach yourselves to us or cause us any harm. See, it's so weird. Like I don't understand. I don't understand so is this the words that would come out if it were speech? And we just don't understand it, or what? Like, why does it come out this way? We're only going to give you so much longer because I don't want a bunch of dead air. I'm probably going to have to edit a lot of the sound. Would you like to say anything else before we hang up this necrometer?
One last word.
One last word in closing. If it says die, I'm done, you know.
Oh my God, throw it out.
I'm throwing it out. This phone is evil. All right, we thank you for your time. We're gonna 3 o'clock.
3 o'clock. Okay.
Just so I'm not gonna meet you in this room at 3 o'clock. That's not happening. I'll be
Okay.
3 o'clock in relationship. I don't know if I like that or if I, 3 o'clock is a pretty scary time in the witching world. That's when they say that a lot of times the veil is at its thinnest or whatever. So that 3 a.m. So I wonder, I get a lot of 3 o'clocks on here. So I don't know if they're telling me like it's kind of like a Western where they're like, meet me at 3 o'clock, and it's like the high noon thing. And yeah, we're gonna duel. I'm not dueling with you. I'm not gonna be down here at 3. Nothing. I've tried playing music down here at 3 and recording, and nothing good happens at 3 o'clock. It's just a bunch of being tired and everything else. So
we don't want that.
Well, we did it, everybody. We even did a little app spirit box session. Feel free. Ooh, spooky. I hope you guys are enjoying this Spooktober month that we're doing. I hope you continue to stick around because I've got a lot of spooky guests all month long. It's going to be the revival of the Cain Stevens Paranormal Super Show. I hope you guys continue to do the grassroots movement thing with me. Just keep this going. I don't care if I get to be as big as Joe Rogan. If I have one listener, I'm happy. Just someone to talk to, someone to listen. So let's thank our guest Amanda for being here. Like all good things, this interview's got to come to an end, or I will have like 400 hours of things to edit, and she's got better things to do than talk to a guy like me in their basement. So thank you guys. Thank you, Amanda, for being here, and we will see you guys on the other side.